Tonight, let me tell you a story. A story about a man you've probably never heard of, but some believe he's one of the most powerful people in the world. No titles, no fanfare, no photos on magazine covers. Just a quiet figure, dressed in black, moving through the shadows of the world's most mysterious institution, the Vatican. This is the story of the Black Pope, and the question that's kept many people awake at night. Is the White Pope really in charge, or is someone else pulling the strings? So take a breath, close your eyes, and let's go back, deep into the heart of Rome. His title sounds like something from a thriller, the Black Pope, but he's real. At least, the role is. The man who holds it today is called the Superior General of the Society of Jesus. More simply, he leads the Jesuits. He wears black robes, simple, plain. He doesn't stand on balconies. He doesn't wave to crowds. He doesn't give televised addresses. Yet some believe he holds more power than the Pope himself. Why? To understand that, we need to understand the Jesuits. And for that, we travel back nearly 500 years. The year is 1540. A soldier named Ignatius of Loyola, wounded and changed, forms a brotherhood. Not just of faith, but of discipline, obedience, and strategy. They call themselves the Society of Jesus. While others pray in monasteries, the Jesuits act. They teach, they write, they travel across continents, they speak dozens of languages, and walk among kings, merchants, and peasants. Their oath? To go wherever the Pope sends them, without question. They become teachers, scientists, missionaries, and some whisper, advisors to the powerful. They rise fast, too fast, some say, and that's where the mystery begins. By the 1600s, Jesuits were everywhere. China, India, Brazil, even the courts of European monarchs. And yet, they never stop answering to one man, the Superior General, which again is the Black Pope. He stays out of sight. He writes letters, issues orders, and some claim runs the church from the shadows. It's said the Black Pope has his own intelligence network, that he can reach into royal courts, banks, even governments, even now in modern times. There are people who believe the Jesuits influence global decisions. But here's the question. If true, why do we know so little about them? In 1773, the Jesuits are suppressed, gone, banished by the Pope himself. Why? Pressure from monarchs, whispers of too much power, accusations of meddling in politics, economics, and more. But just 41 years later, they return, and they've been here ever since, no longer in exile, no longer hidden. At least, not officially. Still, conspiracy theorists claim they never really left. They just went underground, and with them, the Black Pope, who continued to pull invisible strings. It's said they never forgot who exiled them, and they've never stopped working to ensure it doesn't happen again. The former Pope, Pope Francis, is the first Jesuit to become Pope. For some, it felt like history. For others, something else entirely. They call him the White Pope, but within certain circles there's another title. Whispered, not spoken, the Black Pope, and for the first time, those two roles seemed to fold into one. Some saw it as symbolic, a quiet shift in power. Others saw it as confirmation of a theory long brushed aside, because the Jesuit order has never answered to the Vatican bureaucracy. Not in the traditional sense, they answer to their own Superior General, and that's where the thread leads us. To the office of the Superior General, the man who oversees thousands of Jesuit institutions, schools, missions, universities, stretching across continents, a network shaped not by crowns or cathedrals, but by loyalty to something older, something quieter, something not everyone was meant to see. Some believe the Black Pope isn't just a strategist, but a guardian of old knowledge, of prophecies, of writings that have been locked away beneath Vatican stone for centuries. It's said he has access to books in the Vatican archives that even the Pope does not read. Forbidden history, unreleased documents, maybe even things that could change what we know about God, the world, and time itself. If that were true, wouldn't it make sense to keep that man hidden? Some go further. They believe the Black Pope leads a new world order, that he is part of a global elite, that secret societies work through him, not the Pope. Others link the Jesuits to revolutions, to banking empires, even to wars. Most of these theories have no proof, but they have something else: silence. The Black Pope rarely gives interviews, rarely appears in public, and in a world of constant visibility, that silence feels strange. So now you know. The Black Pope is real. The title is ancient, and the man who holds it today still walks behind the curtain of the church with a new pope, Pope Leo XIV, the first American to ever lead the Catholic Church. Some wonder if change is truly in motion, or if the old power still whispers behind closed doors. Pope Leo speaks of hope, of transparency, of healing wounds within the church. But the Jesuits, they've survived 5 centuries of storms, and the Black Pope, well, he doesn't give speeches. He doesn't stand before cameras. He moves quietly, strategically, and while the world looks to St. Peter's Square, some still wonder if the real power lives deeper, in the quieter halls, where doors are thick and secrets are older than nations. So what do you believe? Is the Black Pope just a name, or something more? A shadow figure? A guardian of ancient knowledge? Or simply a misunderstood man in black robes? The church would say, there is nothing to see, nothing to fear. But maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what he'd want us to think. And just a reminder, before your eyes close completely, whether you see it as truth, myth, or something in between, this is simply a story people have whispered for centuries. Not a belief, not a claim, just a quiet curiosity, meant to help you drift off into sleep. So rest now. Let the questions fade into candlelight. If you're still awake, don't worry. The night's not over just yet. Let's set aside the whispers of the Black Pope for now and wander into a different Vatican shadow. A new door, a new question. This time, it's not about who leads. It's about what's hidden beneath them. So close your eyes, breathe in, and drift with me into another quiet conspiracy. And if you'd like more stories like this to fall asleep to, a quiet little tap on the screen goes a long way. It helps this one reach others and gently supports this humble little channel. Now let's imagine something together. Slowly, you're standing in the Vatican, the heart of the Roman Catholic Church, a city within a city, quiet, guarded, eternal. You walk softly through halls that smell of old stone and incense, lit by shafts of golden sunlight filtering through stained glass. And then, you enter the Sistine Chapel. Look up. There they are, Michelangelo's visions of heaven and judgment splashed across the ceiling like the thoughts of God himself. It's breathtaking. But what no one tells you is that what's beneath you might be even more mysterious. Because according to some, just below this sacred space is a secret, a vault, a sealed chamber, and inside, an artifact the church has never acknowledged. Now, this story might sound familiar, especially if you've played a certain video game, Assassin's Creed. In that world, there's something called the Piece of Eden, a relic, smooth, golden, glowing, said to be left behind by an ancient civilization more advanced than us. These artifacts aren't just decorations, they're tools. They can control people, not like a hammer controls a nail, but like a lullaby, it controls a baby's breath. Soft, subtle, effective. You don't feel controlled. You just agree, obey, trust. Now here's the twist. While the Piece of Eden is fictional, The idea of such an object isn't new. In fact, it's very old. Throughout history, the Church has been accused, again and again, of hiding knowledge. Ancient documents, lost books of the Bible, forbidden texts locked away in places no outsider will ever see. The Vatican Apostolic Archive, formerly called the Secret Archive, contains over 50 miles of shelving. Documents going back to the 8th century. Some are political, some are spiritual, some no one knows, because very few people are allowed inside, and even fewer are allowed to speak about what they've seen. But conspiracy theorists, storytellers, curious historians, they believe there's more than just paperwork inside those stone walls. They believe something else is hidden, something physical, something ancient, and maybe something powerful. That brings us back to the legend. The one about a vault beneath the Sistine Chapel, not a tomb, not a treasure room, but a chamber designed to contain one thing, a single object. According to this theory, it wasn't built by the Church. It was inherited, discovered, covered up. And the artifact inside? It doesn't shine like gold. It doesn't hum or float or flash. It just exists, quietly, calmly, and yet it changes people just by being near it. Let's shift from legend to a real figure, a man wrapped in power, scandal, and whispers. Rodrigo Borgia, better known to history as Pope Alexander VI. The year was 1492. While Columbus was sailing west, Borgia was climbing higher into the most powerful seat in Christendom, but he didn't get there by sainthood. He got there through deals, bribes, and a hunger for influence. He was not a holy man in the way we imagine popes to be. He was something else, and that's exactly why he becomes central to this theory. Some say Borgia wasn't just after money or land. They say he believed the Church had lost something older, deeper, a kind of divine authority. Not moral authority, but mind authority. So he searched, and what he found, according to the theory, wasn't scripture, but the vault and the object inside, a real-life piece of Eden, wasn't divine in the biblical sense. It was something else, something pre-biblical, not made by humans, and not meant to be found. They say Borgia removed the object. Secretly, no announcement, no ceremony. He embedded it into something ordinary, his papal staff. You've seen it in paintings, a tall staff with a cross. But this one, they say, was different. Not symbolic, not decorative, but functional. In secret meetings, Borgia would grip the staff tightly, and people would listen. Debates would quiet, opponents would hesitate. Minds would shift, as if something invisible was gently pressing on their will, not like a push, but like a nudge. They'd leave the meeting confused, unsure why they had agreed with him. Of course, there's no proof. No one's ever found the vault. No one's recovered the staff. But fragments of this story keep surfacing. A forgotten footnote in a dusty diary. A Vatican guard who saw something glowing once underground. A blurry photo passed around fringe websites, showing something golden, oval, cased in glass. Could it all be fake? Sure. Could it be fiction? Absolutely. But here's the strange part. The Vatican never comments, and in the world of conspiracy theories, silence is louder than denial. Some versions of the theory go further. They say the artifact didn't just influence minds, it recorded them, held thoughts, memories, emotions, a psychic fingerprint, and every pope since Alexander VI, whether they believed in it or not, was quietly shaped by it. And what if the artifact didn't want to be found? What if it wanted to be used? What if it had waited centuries for the right hands, the right ambition to lift it back into power? Now here's the chilling part. In 1939, Pope Pius XII ordered portions of the Vatican archives permanently sealed. Why? Some say it was political. Others say he found something, a vault, a broken device, a warning. And after that, the stories stopped. But the rumors? They never did. So here you are again, standing in the Sistine Chapel. Tourists around you, whispering, taking pictures. But you're thinking downward, to the stone beneath your feet, to the silent chamber below, and to the object that might still be there. Waiting. What if the Vatican's true power isn't spiritual, isn't political, but ancient, invisible, patient, and it's been here all along? Remember, sometimes fiction is just the truth in disguise, and as the imagined echo of footsteps fades beneath the Sistine Chapel, we let the story settle. Whether that object ever truly existed, or still waits beneath layers of silence and stone, we may never know. But the Vatican has never been short of secrets. Some hide in vaults, others in names no one ever speaks aloud. So if you're still with me, drift a little deeper. We're heading into a quiet room, not of relics or treasure, but of identity. Whispers call it the room of names. And inside are stories the Church was never meant to forget or reveal. They call it one of the most secret places on earth, a place where silence is protected by stone, by time, and by choice. Tucked deep within the heart of the Vatican lies something many have heard of, but few have ever seen. The Vatican Apostolic Archives. Not a library, not a museum, but something else entirely. A sealed vault of letters, ledgers, and secrets, covering over 12 centuries of history, from emperors to exorcisms, from handwritten papal documents to personal notes between kings and popes. Most of it is untouched, unread, unshared, and somewhere within these countless shelves, there's a rumor, a whisper, a theory so strange it barely feels real. They call it the Room of Names. But what is the Room of Names? No one knows for certain. There are no photos, no official mentions, nothing printed, nothing public. It doesn't exist, at least not formally. And yet, those who study the Vatican's history and those who have brushed shoulders with its inner world keep hearing the same phrase, the Room of Names. Now let's pause here. It might sound like fiction, a poetic title, a made-up legend born of boredom or imagination. But the Vatican Apostolic Archives are massive, over 50 miles of shelving, documents stacked in silence, sorted by hand, guarded for centuries. And within that expanse there are locked chambers. Even scholars cannot enter. Rooms with no windows, rooms with no signs, rooms that don't appear on any layout. So, if a room of names did exist, it could, quite literally, be hiding in plain sight. But what would it contain? Let's explore the theories. Theory 1. A list of enemies. The most common theory is that the Room of Names holds a list, not of allies, not of saints, but of enemies, philosophers, thinkers, rebels, people who questioned church doctrine or tried to change it. Names that have been erased from public records, blacklisted, forgotten by history, but not by the Vatican. Maybe it began as a tool, a way for the Church to track dissent, a quiet catalogue of those who challenged the system, not for revenge, but for watchfulness. And over time, the list grew, from medieval heretics to Enlightenment scientists to modern critics. Some say it even includes names of people who've never attacked the Church, but might. Which leads us to the next theory. Theory 2. Names from the future. This theory is much stranger. It suggests that the Room of Names isn't just a historical archive, it's prophetic, that somehow the Vatican has collected information on people who haven't yet made history, but one day will. Writers, inventors, leaders, protesters, people who might pose a threat to the Church's control, its message, or its role in the future. How would the Vatican know? Well, That's part of the mystery. Some say there are prophecy documents locked away, visions from saints or monks or mystics that foretold names, places, or families to watch. Names that won't be relevant for another century, but when they are, the Vatican will be ready. Not to punish, but to prepare. Because knowledge is power, and the Church has always understood the power of a name. Theory 3. Names of the protected. But what if the list isn't dangerous? What if it's sacred? Another theory says the room of names doesn't record enemies, but protectees. People the Church has secretly helped across the centuries. Individuals kept safe from wars, or hidden from persecution, or quietly funded to ensure their survival. A kind of spiritual witness protection, or divine insurance policy. Poets who were allowed to escape inquisitions, refugees given new identities, lost bloodlines preserved through favors and quiet relocations. These names, if real, would change the story of history itself, because it would mean the Church has shaped events from behind the curtain, not just with ideas, but with individual lives, people you'll never read about in books, but who shaped everything. Theory 4, the disappeared. Of course, there is a darker version of this story. Some believe the Room of Names holds a list of people who once lived, but no longer do. People who disappeared, writers who vanished, researchers whose work was never published, priests who asked too many questions. And in this theory, the Room of Names isn't about keeping track, it's about keeping quiet, a wall of silence, maintained not with chains or locks, but with forgetfulness. The kind of forgetting that isn't accidental, it's intentional, controlled, and irreversible. But why names? What is it about names? Why not keep records of actions or crimes or documents? Why just names? Because in many traditions, especially spiritual ones, a name holds power. To know someone's true name is to hold a thread of their essence. It's why names are used in rituals, why they're whispered in prayers, why so many legends and myths warn you never to share your real name too freely. A name, once written, becomes permanent, traceable, eternal, and in the hands of the Vatican, a name might mean more than any action. A person's name, locked in silence, becomes both memory and warning. So, does the Room of Names exist? No one knows. The Vatican refuses to speak about it. Most believe it's just a rumor, a ghost story for curious scholars. But sometimes the strangest thing about a conspiracy isn't the theory itself, it's how carefully it's denied. Not loudly, not defensively, just quietly, as if it were never worth mentioning at all. And maybe that's the most telling thing of all. So tonight, if your mind drifts back to this story, if you find yourself wondering whether your name or someone you admire has ever been spoken in one of those vaulted marble rooms, remember this. History doesn't just live in books. Sometimes it sleeps in shadows, and the stories we aren't allowed to know might be the ones that matter most. And as we drift to the end of tonight's story, remember, these are just theories, whispers in the dark corners of curiosity. Nothing shared here is proven fact, only fragments of wonder passed through time and imagination. And amidst all the mystery, let's not forget, the Vatican has also been a place of deep beauty, history, and awe-inspiring art. Sometimes even the most secretive places hold light. So if you'd like to join me again, feel free to subscribe. Our journey isn't over yet. There's a chapter 2, waiting in the quiet. For now, close your eyes, rest easy, and have a good night. Sleep well.